This was the scene at the state's test drilling site in Butner. Drilling rigs and personnel were ordered off the state-owned property by a district court judge this afternoon, the result of a resident's petition questioning the legality of the drilling there. As Keith Whitney reports, the protesters are getting some high-level help in their struggle tonight.
Yesterday, the police tape was meant to keep the Granville County protesters out. Today, it was to keep the drilling crews out as well. The protesters have temporarily stopped the state from testing this site as a possible hazardous waste incinerator.
Since they're using that equipment to effect an illegal purpose, then the sheriff should have the authority to remove both the people and their instrumentality.
While protesters squared off at the line with police, the state lawmaker was bringing up the rear, asking for a special legislative session to cancel the project that he says the General Assembly erroneously approved.
We can turn it around. The legislature can turn it around.
Others joined the demand that this project,
and that's an insult.
Now, officials with the Human Rights Committee for the Murdoch Center say some of the parents of the retarded children here are terrified that even under the best-case scenarios, an evacuation from this facility would take hours.
To place the plant, safe or unsafe, so close to helpless people who cherish serene surroundings is unthinkable.
In the words of one resident, the grassroots are growing, and it's just a matter of time before somebody crosses the line of what has so far been a peaceful battle. In Granville County, Keith Whitney, WT.
Larry Ravel explains someone was watching the work crews every step of the way.
Soil testing equipment was turned back on today at the state-owned Umstead Farm. This after a judge threw out a temporary restraining order, which caused a 5-day delay. There were no protesters around, just a couple of monitors who are incinerator opponents and members of the Granville Nonviolent Action Team. They used video cameras and cellular phones to document what was happening and keep other group members informed.
I mean, we were told to stay back from the drilling rig, that we could observe it, take pictures, and be an observer to exactly what's going on.
Another reason incinerator opponents were armed with recording equipment is to make a record of any damage done to rare plants in the area like the coneflower. But that's not the only reason opponents are upset.
See, the flower is just one thing, and there are other plants, and there's just life itself. You know, when you're talking about building something like this next door to these institutions, these people that can't even move from room to room, much less out of the building and off the land and down the road to evacuate, it's ludicrous. And
originally, protesters had planned to stay home today and let work crews finish testing 3 holes and leave. But the protesters changed their minds when they heard that a 4th site would also be checked today.
Okay, we're right.
That's all that was needed to get incinerator opponents angry enough to come out by the dozens. The State Hazardous Waste Commission says it did not defy a judge's order by testing a 4th site because it was on National Guard property and not the Umstead property.
Incinerator fight began. Violence has now touched one of the sites.
Tires were blown out on drilling trucks and some test boreholes were filled with liquid solder.
And as WTVD's Keith Whitney reports, tempers are beginning to reach the boiling point.
In the woods near Butner, you will find big spiders, but even bigger gnats. Yet again today, it was GNAT, Granville Nonviolent Action Team, versus the state's proposed hazardous waste incinerator. Protesters say they're being caught up in a web of deceit woven by the Martin administration.
Some companies that come in, make a lot of money that they can pass off to the Environmental Protection Agency for looking the other way, or to some politician that wants a big cut out of it.
For the first time since the grassroots siege began, there was vandalism, and police cordoned off the entire site while protesters questioned who actually had jurisdiction over the land.
Is not related to agriculture, it's not related to forestry, it's not related to aquaculture, and those are the only 3 purposes that Commissioner Graham is supposed to be using this farm for.
Under heavy police guard, massive drilling rigs slowly rolled into place. Earlier, tires on other vehicles had been flattened by nails hidden beneath the pine needles. Now, the big rigs inched cautiously into the angry din. Many feel the state and Governor Jim Martin are determined to put the incinerator here despite residents and hundreds of sick patients confined to the Murdoch Center nearby.
Very, very concerned that the waste fumes will harm our already compromised patients. I'm very worried about the ecology around here.
Protesters are also angry that work crews have turned the Umstead farm into a logging camp, tearing down trees to make way for more controversy. In Granville County, Keith Whitney, WTVD 11 News.
Today, opponents gathered near Murdoch Center in Butner to continue their fight. They called today's protest a mercy march. They say they're defending the patients who live at that center. A crisp October morning finds Granville County residents continuing the fight. They gather less than a mile from the state's Murdoch Center. The mental hospital has become the newest symbol for these opponents to a hazardous waste incinerator to rally round. Still, the target of their anger remains unchanged. That target is Governor Jim Martin. Attorney John Pike tells the demonstrators that he's challenged Martin to a debate and that Martin has declined the challenge. Pike calls our state's chief executive chicken.
His facts must not be as good as he thought they were. He'd take the opportunity to debate me or anybody. He could debate this young man right here and he'd damn well lose.
After the rally, the march to Murdoch Center begins. Leon Estes says he's got a lot at stake in this fight.
I'm employed at Murdoch, but I'm still got a lot of interest in the residents of Murdoch Center. I feel like if the incinerator come, I probably won't have no job. I'll probably have to move too. I don't know where they're going to locate the residents at, but my main concerns is I'm more or less caring about them.
It is a sentiment echoed by these chanting marchers.
Not here, not there, not anywhere. Hey, hey, ho, ho. It's got to go, hey, hey.
These are people who before talk of an incinerator had little experience with civil disobedience. But now their rallying cry is this: whatever it takes. And they're optimistic they can do just that.
I think it'll be so much negative output that they'll probably want to go away.
In another development regarding that proposed hazardous waste incinerator, a member of the governor's Hazardous Waste Management Board now says Johnston County is no longer under consideration for the incinerator. Dr. Linda Little made that announcement Thursday night in Garner. She said the news is not new and that the media should have reported that fact sooner. We have been unable to confirm Little's assertion.
Miles of protesters from all across the state converged in Butner to say no to a proposal to put a hazardous waste incinerator there.
We're here for business now. We're not joking.
This is amazing. You know, there's probably 3,000 people here today.
Jimmy Martin, don't you know?
Jimmy Martin, don't you know?
We won't take your yellow snow.
We won't take your yellow snow.
This is wonderful. We just hope we succeed.
Not here, not there, not anywhere.
Traffic around Butner came to a complete halt for much of the morning as thousands of protesters took their cause to the street. Their plan was to follow the route that trucks carrying hazardous waste would drive, right past a state facility for handicapped children. Nobody here likes the idea of the state's plan to consider putting a hazardous waste facility on this site near Butner. And today was the people's turn to speak out.
And we're not out for the fun of it. We'll not have the incinerator in North Carolina.
The protests and the people were organized. Some were even creative in getting their message across. People from as far away as Davie County showed up, and some from another successful cause.
We just finished fighting the city of Durham for the proposed landfill site 10, and we won.
They hope to win this one too, with combined strategy, voices,
how did we get in this fix?
And voting power. They hope plans for the hazardous waste incinerator for North Carolina will just die out. The state's Hazardous Waste Commission has the job of naming a site and building an incinerator by December 1991. On October 2nd, the commission designated the Umstead Farm site as suitable, elevating it to the top of the state's.
Support today from a couple of Durham County groups. The environmental group Save the Water and the Northeast Neighborhood Association say they want to make it a statewide fight. They say the incinerator would present a clear and present threat to the health and safety of all North Carolinians.
We're worried about the eventuality of
of accidents and spills and explosions and evacuations along the neighborhoods in Durham, particularly the northeast neighborhoods, and also the potential spill hazard on the bridge over Falls Lake.
Clark and his colleagues say they don't want the incinerator anywhere in North Carolina. As WTVD's Dave Bolick reports, it looks as if the preferred site is near Butner in Granville County.
You have told us that about 4 times.
The head of the state's Hazardous Waste Management Commission said today there'll have to be more information than he's seen yet to keep a hazardous waste incinerator out of Granville County.
With the information we have now, I don't see that there's anything that would necessarily prohibit the placing of an incinerator there.
That set off strong protest from Granville incinerator opponents.
It ain't coming to Granville County. There is no way that they could possibly consider siting that facility next to Murdoch Center near John Umstead Hospital.
John Pike Site Review Commission, which has evaluated plans to put the incinerator next to John Umstead Mental Hospital, spent 2.5 hours this morning arguing against the site. They say it's dangerous to the 2,700 hospital patients and prisoners housed around Butner.
Mentally ill people are victims of diseases, but they are human beings, and their health and well-being and safety need to be considered.
Granville County's emergency management director said evacuating the hospital is virtually impossible. He said in case of an accident, it would require 700 volunteers using 39 ambulances, 12 hours to move hospital patients. So Granville County opponents think they can stop the incinerator from going to their county by going to court.
No court has ever heard the fact that the EPA gives the state of North Carolina no assurance that the damn thing's not going to kill people. No court's ever heard those things. Once the courts and the legislature hear the truth, then they will stop it.
Granville County has until November 19th to show why the incinerator should not go there. On the 20th, the commission will pick its preferred site, and unless things change drastically, that site may well be Granville County.
This is WRAL-TV, Channel 5 and Channel 40. From WRAL-TV 5, Charlie Gaddy, Donna Gregory, Greg Fischel, and Tom Suter, with North Carolina's leading news team. This is WRAL-TV 5 News.
Granville County residents tonight continue to fight against a proposed hazardous waste incinerator. The State Hazardous Waste Commission is supposed to announce the site December the 4th. It says the only plot of land suitable for the incinerator is state-owned land in Butner. The people there don't want it, and tonight they are throwing a fundraising party to fight it. Our reporter, Dwayne Pullman, is there and joins us now. What's happening there, Dwayne?
Well, you can hear, Charlie, they're chanting behind me, not here, not there, not anywhere. That's a familiar phrase that's been going on here in Granville County. Now, this is another in a long list of events to try and help raise money in the fight against the proposed incinerator here in Granville County and in Butner. But as many people told us tonight, they also wanted to have some fun. Get off the protest line, get out of the courtrooms, get off the phones, and just relax a little bit, and with all your new friends you've made.
The organizer of tonight's event put the bash into perspective, and for the most part, those who have spent an exhausting 6-month fight against the incinerator let their hair down tonight.
My wife and I have got a babysitter, and we're actually out on a date tonight here at this worthy cause.
It's a way for us to release some of the frustration and anxiety and to have a good time, at the same time make it profitable by raising money to fight legal battles with.
But the fight is never really forgotten. Money from the bash will go to help pay for the legal costs. And while it's not over, some people are so confident they'll win against the state, they've begun looking past a victory.
We all wonder what's going to happen when it's over, and it will be over. And we will win. And we just don't know what we're going to do when we win. But we'll worry about that. We'll have something else like this.
And Charlie, it's not over yet, and certainly not everyone's that optimistic. Wallace Bradger, the lawyer from Butner who's fighting, says that the battle on Thursday will decide much of what he thinks will be the last battle in this whole thing. If he doesn't win, the state will be able to make an announcement on the site they've selected on December 4th, and you can hear it. The emotion is high here tonight.
Dwayne, I know it'll be hard for you to hear me, but how many people do you think are there?
Well, we have about 200 people here, Charlie. That's $12.50 per person in the fight to raise funds for the legal battle. And Charlie, much more than that, they all are together on this, as we've seen so many times before, and they are gaining strength, as they said here tonight.
Okay, Dwayne, thank you very much.
The attorneys for the group says the state may be taking a closer look at whether the charges are valid.
It's our feeling that these are Department of Agriculture lands, and I don't know if the state is certain that they really had the right to exclude these people.
Of course, many of the defendants had to take the day off work only to see their trial postponed. In the case of this Butner floral shop, the owner and both his employees were arrested for trespassing, so for most of the day, they had to shut down completely.
I feel bad that we're not there, but I feel like I'd rather be here now and not working than and have a place to work 10 years from now.
Daniel, like most of the others, says he's not happy about taking another day off work to go to court in December, but he'll do whatever it takes to keep a hazardous waste incinerator out of Granville County. Ed Crump, WTVD 11 News, Oxford.
Their cases were scheduled for today, but then were postponed because the charges are the result of trying to keep out a hazardous waste incinerator. As Jennifer Jones reports, the people insist they've done nothing wrong.
75 of them, Granville County residents, rallying outside of the county courthouse today, maintaining their innocence.
There's certainly decent law-abiding citizens that would deserve the most lenient of sentences if, in fact, they were guilty, which they're not.
State property belongs to us. We are the state. We are the people. We're the taxpayers.
They were here today to face charges of second-degree trespassing. 2 weeks ago, authorities arrested 64 people for standing on state property as soil testing for a hazardous waste incinerator got underway. 2 people spent the night in jail, one of them a member of the Granville County School Board.
Going to jail is not a happy place to be, but if that's what it takes for people of North Carolina to realize that hazardous incineration is wrong, then that's what I'm going to do.
A judge delayed today's scheduled court hearings until December 6th. Protesters say their plea will be the same then as it is now, not guilty. In Granville County, Jennifer Jones, WPTF TV 28 News.
The State Board of Ethics is hearing testimony today in a conflict of interest case involving a member of the State Hazardous Waste Management Commission. Judge Preston Cornelius contends that Commission member Truman Kohler of Charlotte has a conflict. Kohler is vice president of the company Sandoz, and Judge Cornelius says that company is a large producer of hazardous waste.
A judge issued a restraining order that canceled a public hearing in Butner. Then another judge stayed that restraining order, clearing the way for a public hearing. That hearing took place shortly after 9 o'clock in Butner. Residents complained they didn't know the hearing was back on. Carol Sparge joins us now with more on what this means. That was really back and forth tonight up there, wasn't it?
It sure was, Charlie. A lot of confusion. Charlie, the executive director of the Hazardous Waste Management Commission, says it has fulfilled its obligation to hold a public hearing. Tonight, Superior Court Judge Donald Stevens issued a stay. Members of the Hazardous Waste Management Commission returned to the Butner Sports Arena, opened up the hearing. No one was there. They closed the hearing and went home. It wasn't the way residents thought the night would go.
We will do whatever it takes because